Here's a story from NPR. My friends, USAID cut dramatically as officials address stunning and irresponsible changes. I love this story. Trump, of course, announced that they were going to be putting everybody on leave. And so we have this, there's a development. They say that senior staff submitted a list to State Department leadership of around 600 people whose work around the world they deemed essential and could not be disrupted. But Secretary of State Marco Rubio approved less than 300 for exclusion from a broad policy that will put a large percentage of the 13,000 plus workforce on administrative leave by Friday at midnight. That's according to multiple sources. Might as well shut it all down. 290 people won't be able to do anything. That's kind of the point. So let me throw it to Mike Cernovich. He can break down a bit, just a bit. You know, Mike Benz, he's the guy. He's been going off on USAID. And tomorrow morning on The Culture War, youtube.com/Timcast, subscribe if you haven't, we're going to be sitting down with a bunch of experts on how USAID is basically a weapon of the deep state to stage soft coups and spread U.S. influence. Mike Cernovich says, this ish is crazy, man. USAID grants to far left-wing nonprofits. The nonprofits pay their employees six-figure salaries, most in the 300 to 500 year range. I'd estimate that over half of the D.C. economy is an outright looting of all of us via USAID grants. You guys want to hear something crazy? Rumors are circulating in the D.C. area that top shelf booze sales have dropped dramatically. This is what people are claiming. So I like to go to some of these restaurants. Look, we're not that far away. We're probably like 10 minutes from Loudoun County. Maybe 15 or 20 now. The old studio was literally across the street. Yeah. You go down to Reston or Arlington, and they've got these really nice restaurants. Everything's super clean and beautiful. These people, this is the capital in the Hunger Games. Exactly. It is. They're dressed weird. They have insane ideas. They're oblivious to the strife and the perils that working class people go through, and they get money likely through these systems. Now, I'm going to add one last thing to Mike Cernovich's point. I've worked for these nonprofits. It is not just that an executive director or senior staff get $300,000 a year. They work for multiple nonprofits at the same time. Yep. So when we look at these grants and we can see that, you know, insert democracy organization of some type pays John Smith $500,000, it don't end there. That dude's also on the board of another nonprofit getting some kind of compensation for consulting. Then he's a staff member or a consultant for another nonprofit. Me and my buddies did this 20-something years ago. We started looking at all the board members of various nonprofits working on liberal issues. And this is back during Obama. And we found that there were like 15 people that were on the board or staff of like 20 different nonprofits. And what they do then is some guy will come out and say, look, I work for a nonprofit and I only make $50,000 a year because I believe in the cause. He's telling you the truth, but omitting that he actually makes $3 million a year through all the other consulting and nonprofits he works for.
That's a microcosm of the absolute dishonesty that comes from them, too. Just that example specifically is a microcosm of the type of lie by omission that everybody hates politicians for.
Exactly. But this is what they do, and they fundraise off it. Yeah. They say, look, you know, I don't pay myself that much. Then their funds, their various organizations are paying them millions. So Donald Trump has nuked USAID. I wonder, what will this do? Will this nuke the D.C. economy? I'd imagine so. But also, I'm curious what you guys think is going to happen around the world with this elimination.
I mean, I hope that there are significant vacancies in the greater Washington, D.C. area.
But I mean, like, are we going to see countries collapse? Like, is all of a sudden, you know, Colombia going to be like, we're right wing now?
Less American gender studies courses going on in foreign countries.
Yeah, it's my sense that these aren't, they're not funding the countries themselves, but they are influencing the country. So it's likely that there will be other influences that take the place of the United States. So there will, like Brett was saying, there will be less gender stuff. There will be less LGBT stuff, less what you would call woke stuff.
I think we're going to see basically a lot of celebration around the world by people in countries that are aware that their country was infiltrated and that they had regime change or color revolutions that destroyed their nations. I mean, be it Libya, the former Yugoslavia, any of these countries, Ukraine. People are very aware that this is happening. And I'm sure you guys also are Bonn, Romania. There's also the connection to elections and USAID. So there are many people all around the world, Colombia, Chile, all over, Brazil, that people believe that the CIA, in the guise of USAID and National Endowment for Democracy, have gone into their countries, started the process of creating opposition groups, funded them in order to topple the regime that the people actually wanted, to put in a puppet that's going to go along with the bigger scheme, which is Agenda 2030 and all of this, global governance model of the stakeholders. And frankly, that's what I think is going on. And the truth is that a lot of this at the very highest level is a UN operation. And if you are not on board with the UN and the international bankers that run it, then you are going to be overthrown. And I think people are hip to it now.
Not anymore.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to be the case.
It's not.
Yeah.
They're not going to be able to pull it off.
I've been calling this Trump's March to the Sea. That, we had a great, someone called in the members only show and said that Trump's 3 elections track with Star Wars pretty well. A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Orange Man. And I hope that this time with Trump's victory, the deep state is routed. And what he's doing now is effectively scorched earth through their institutions, and they will not be able to put up any kind of meaningful resistance.
He has to. And I know that me and Ian got into it a little bit about this last night. But the reason that he has to is because the Democrats are going to use lawfare. Yeah. They're already talking about Elon Musk and saying that he's breaking the law. He's breaking the law. This is preparing the environment so that way they can charge him with crimes, so they can put him in jail. The Democrats, this is the play moving forward. The left is going to continue to accuse the right of breaking the law, and they're going to use the levers of government to put people in jail for defying them.
Right, which is why we need Kash Patel in there as soon as possible, and I'll tell you why. Because the lawfare crew is very identifiable. It's through Brookings, it's through the Atlantic Council, it's Eisen and Weissman and McCord. They've been running this lawfare for decades. Eric Holder, Mark Elias. These people don't work for Democrats. They work for the parent company that is running the United States of America. It's my belief that there is no left and right, Republican and Democrat, that really our country is captured by a group of people that consider themselves the stakeholders of the region that is the American region, if you look on the higher level. And really, these lawfare people, all they do is they work for them to create roadblocks for anyone that wants to change the status quo, which is the funneling of money into these groups. So it's the Gates Foundation, the Open Society, Omidyar Foundation, Democracy Alliance, and then the whole Arabella Partners, Tides Foundation. Well, all of these lawfare crew, especially the Brookings lawfare people, if you look into the entire situation from before Crossfire Hurricane all the way through, it is the same lawyers, it is the same people involved in the fake impeachments, in the Mueller-Weissman report, in the Transition Integrity Project, jump to the entire last 4 years. These people are a small group of lawyers basically around Georgetown that truly do not work for the best interests of America. They work for the billionaire class that has captured this country and really is looking towards the global governance Agenda 2030 model. And anyone that gets in the way and threatens the trillions of dollars that they put in, they're going to take down, destroy, and hopefully ruin forever.
But I think that's over, don't you?
No.
No?
I think they're at it right now. I think that Mary McCord, who's the architect of a lot of this with Norm Eisen, they've been doing a show right now. Jen Rubin and Norm Eisen, for some reason, have a new podcast, and Weissman's going on there. And these are all the people that have been doing the lawfare the whole time. They said they've been planning for a year. Now, I understand that they're not going to have success like they did in the past, but I do think there's about probably 3 or 4% of Americans that will still show up anywhere that they ask them to go, whether paid or not, because they are that far gone, and they don't realize these people have no concern for them, that they're just players in the game.
What do you mean, activist types?
Yeah.
Like protest types?
Right.
Like what's going on in LA?
Yeah, exactly.
One of the hardest things going on right now is one of the ways they're fighting is that a lot of people are starting to have like Elon Musk derangement syndrome in relation to Doge and how they view his affiliation with the government. And one of the best things that you can do is to try to find, and I know this sounds counterintuitive sometimes, the driest fact givers can sometimes be the best weapon against somebody like Elon Musk, who tends to be very bombastic online, which kind of triggers people in the same way that Trump derangement syndrome did. I like just sharing stuff that Mike Benz does. I was like, if you can't read through this and take the time to understand these connections, then you don't need to worry about this because you don't care enough to actually look into it. So I'm seeing a lot of memes being made about how Elon Musk is the shadow president. I'm like, look, if you can't take the time to look into the facts from somebody dry who's just giving you a bunch of documentation, and you don't even have to do that. You don't even have to go as recent as that. You can check something like ChatGPT, which is already biased, and just say, give me facts about USAID and their affiliation with the CIA and see what we've been doing in foreign countries for decades and decades and decades. This isn't the stuff of movies. This is stuff that's absolutely going on in the country right now, and you should be concerned. If you are more worried about the people uncovering a bunch of wasteful spending and corruption than you are the wasteful spending and corruption itself, we have a problem.
We have a problem because they absolutely are more worried about it.
Yeah, they are.
It goes
It's insane.
beyond just opposing because it's Donald Trump. These people are worried about their cash cow. They're worried about the loss of ideological control over these institutions. They're worried about the loss of these institutions. It should be totally uninteresting to the American people that the government is cutting waste. It should be actually the American people should be like, yeah, we want that. There should be, I wish that there was an amendment that said, look, every single administration has to cut 10%. Right? You can increase spending, but you have to cut 10% of the government because you know that there's always at least 10%, probably more, of wasteful spending.
Well, we're doing
the
that
idea
now.
that you could go ahead and have no audits that even the Pentagon can't.
We haven't had a budget since 2007.
And the fact that they're freaking out about this.
Isn't Hegseth calling for an audit on the Pentagon?
Yes.
Well, they failed the last 7 of them anyway.
Well, that's why they took out General Flynn was the audit at the
But to
Pentagon.
your point, there's been no budgets. Like it's just been omnibus spending. The fact that they're behaving as if this is some terrible development, it's like, wait a minute. How can you present this idea to the American people? And how is it that there are people out there that actually buy this?
Well, maybe it's a giant distraction anyway, because what I think is that they've lost the control of the narrative. And I'm talking about the intelligence community, the unconstitutional spawned from the Patriot Act intelligence blob that Mike Benz and everyone talks about that shouldn't exist. Frankly, I think that there's too many eyes on them. There's too many podcasts like this one and other ones that are pointing at the IC, at DHS, at the surveillance state and asking what is going on. So I think it's a big distraction, just like the Twitter files. They release them when they could no longer not release them. They're releasing all this when people are actually looking at what's going on in foreign countries and USAID. So maybe this is also part of like the beginning shock and awe, because the real thing we have to deal with in America is what's happening here to our country. And instead of focusing on Elon Musk or Donald Trump and what they're doing, we should be looking at what all of this has done to our country, to our backyard, to what has happened here. And really, I think that it all goes back to this country being captured all the way back by the bankers and billionaires and the globalists that want this global governance model. They've invested trillions of dollars since Obama signed us on this agenda in 2015. They are all go for it. I believe Obama was to take us into Hillary. Hillary was to take us into the end of the agenda by 2030, and this country was going to be done. The whole thing of that whole globalist thing that we're talking about, that I believe the lawfare crew work for, I believe that the IC out of the Patriot Act work for, is that there are no more nation states.
Yes.
It is much easier to have a technocracy, totalitarian, 17 goals, which is all it is, to control by regions, like you were saying about Hunger Games. When I read what Kissinger and Brzezinski and all these people were talking about, which is how I think we got here, it really sounds like Hunger Games, that they would like people and nation states to believe they're free, to believe that they have sovereignty, but at the end of the day, they don't, because above them is the Bank of International Settlements, IMF, World Bank, all the tentacles of the NGOs and the globalist organizations connected to the World Economic Forum and the UN, and they don't want us to see them. them. So right now, yet again, I think we're all pointing at each other when the true danger to our country and the world is actually this group of people that consider themselves stakeholders.
Yeah.
The global public-private partnership I just covered for a week with Noor bin Laden in Davos, they're not stopping. They fully are on board to turn us into a totalitarian, technocratic, one-world controlled thing from Brussels. And we're all fighting each other when it's like, pull the money out of all these things that are enabling that. Basically, every executive order Joe Biden put in was to reverse everything Trump was doing to get out of the global system.
But we're not fighting each other. We're fighting people who blindly march behind these institutions.
Right.
So the American people have I guess you can say those who largely vote for Trump, people who have woken up, whatever you want to call it, they're not all conservative. Some are, some used to be liberal, some are conservative, some are libertarian. I mean, the Libertarian Party largely supported Donald Trump.
Yep.
And then you have these people that no matter what Democrats do, they will defend them to the point where Elon Musk can uncover that the USAID was funding like gender puppet shows in Peru.
Yeah.
And there are literally Democrats being like, I like it.
Yeah.
And you're like, why? Your tax dollars, your money. You want to fix the pipes in Flint? Then stop defending this. And they're like, no. So it doesn't need to be left or right. It's whatever the institution and the machine state is doing, the Democrats are marching behind it. The problem is, at a certain point, when RFK Jr. is like, I think we shouldn't have dangerous chemicals in our food, and the Democrats go, you're bad, you're wrong, regular people go, what?
Right.
This does not make sense anymore. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.